Welcome to the Light Side Facts. Before we start, please comment. Please share. Please put a blue thumb and subscribe. What is the biggest WTF moment you have ever witnessed? Shadow Fury 45. For context, a guy escaped police custody 3 times after he shot his ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend or something. On the run for almost 8 hours before they cornered him in his home. They tried everything from rushing his house to eventually calling the Special Operations Division, backwoods SWAT team, and okay, we're going to ram his door with an armored jeep. They got it stuck on the stairs to his building, and the wrecker had to get called out to pull it out. The second WTF came when he escaped them a 4th time and got busted 2 blocks away by an officer leaving for lunch. Edit if I can find the video, I'll link it. Vonibon. I recently bought a belt online for my husband. It was way too big. I returned for a refund and left a disgruntled review. A few weeks later I'm still looking for a stupid belt online. End up reading the description for the belt and it says something along the lines of easily removable buckle so that you can trim the belt to the correct size. Felt like such a moron. Reordered the belt. Nick. Sweetwater. I've got a pretty good one for this. This was about 8 years ago. Me and a couple buddies were walking back to one of their apartments after a night out of drinking. The walk back is on this fairly long road that has a brick wall separating it from the highway a bit. As we are walking, a car is pulling out from this parking lot to our right. This guy decided to slam on the gas and peel out. As he does this, the car begins to fishtail pretty violently and crashes really hard into that brick wall, all within about 20 feet of us. All of us stand there completely stunned as to what had just happened. We walk up to the car, engine still running, and the guy driving opens the door and literally falls right out. First thing out of his mouth, "Whoa dude, I'm fucked up, man." We check to see if he is alright and my buddy turns the car off. Surveying the scene, his car is completely fucked. It was what looked like a brand new Dodge Challenger. The airbag deployed, one of the wheels was almost off the axle, the front bumper was hanging by a thread, glass everywhere, etc. Meanwhile, another buddy of mine calls the cops while we attempt to talk to this guy. You could smell the alcohol on him and he was extremely drunk and couldn't even put a full sentence together. He said, "Nah man, I'm good, just don't call the cops or anything, man." As we all decide talk this over, within what seemed like a split second this guy somehow climbs back in his car, turns it on, and drives off. He is going like 10 miles per hour and there are sparks flying everywhere. We can see him turn to the right and get on this highway. I kid you not, it looked like the 4th of July as he was on the highway driving off going super slow. My buddy received a call back shortly after saying the cops found him and pulled him over. I don't think the guy was seriously injured, but we always laugh about it till this day, and it's one of those things that definitely made us say what the fuck just happened. Anarchy. Fire. Watched a driver back up into our loading dock without properly securing the trailer doors to the side of the truck. He couldn't hear me, so that wildly swinging door got torn off the hinges when it made contact with the building. As an extra icing on the cake, he also rolled over that door and started shitting bricks about getting fired. Those things are heavy. It took 3 of us to hoist that bad boy back into the trailer. Never saw the driver again. HTRK 74JR. Working in the jail, and we got a call to check a cell. The urgency of the camera operator's voice made myself and my coworker run to the location. Inmate had slices his wrist and the artery in his elbow. He must have had second thoughts though, and hit the call button. Blood all over with smears on the walls, sinks, toilet. Straight up looked like a horror movie. Guy survived thankfully and was sent to a mental hospital to hopefully get the help he needs. Nope, thanks. I've experienced a lot of WTF in my life, but the first time I remember being confused by a situation was when I was about 6 or so. My grandma and I were watching TV late at night in her shitty apartment, in a really shitty area of Dallas, when we heard screeching tires and gunshots. We peek out the window and see some guy get kicked out of a moving car, hit the ground, get up, start screaming, and then start shooting at the car. I wasn't so much confused by the gunshots. People get shot all the time. I was confused because the first gunshots came before he got unceremoniously ejected, so was there shooting inside the car? That seems unlikely, given the nature of bullets and enclosed spaces, so what was being shot at? And why was the guy kicked out afterward? And why was he shooting at the car? And how the hell did he recover so quickly after getting booted out of a moving car? So many questions, and not one answer. All my grandma said was, "Maybe we shouldn't tell your mother about this." Real. In person and not on TV. Santa Monica, February 2011, driving with my family during a vacation. Stopped in traffic, happened to glance over, And there's this building with a bunch of low cement steps, plaza thing, sun shining through the floor to ceiling windows right through the building. IDK what it was. Anyway, halfway up these cement steps, there's a woman on an ambulance gurney, surrounded by a bunch of cops. Like 8 of them. She's unarmed, also, apparently unclothed. As I watch, she gets up on her knees, yanks her shirt off, boobs flying in the breeze. Immediately gets body slammed down onto the gurney by at least 6 of the cops. That was all I caught before traffic moved. Nobody else in the car noticed. I texted my friend in North Hollywood about it and she said, "Welcome to LA." Never did find out what that was about. Fastidious avocado. Old-timey bicycles being ridden on the shoulder of the interstate. I was in the most desolate part of Wyoming on I-80. It was a drought year and everything was yellow. Every rock, every dried plant, the dust in the windy sky, just fucking tan and yellow. I just get out of a stretch of 10+ miles of single-lane construction, no exits anywhere, and I'm speeding up because there are now 2 lanes and access to the shoulder again. And I look over and these 2 guys are on the shoulder, riding old-times bicycles with a single massive front wheel and a tiny back wheel. They are higher up in the air than my hatchback sits, like 6 to 10 feet above the ground. They can't just put their feet down. And they're shoulder riding the interstate in the middle of drought-stricken, yellow rocks and tan dirt, windy as hell Wyoming. With semis about to be blowing by them at 80 miles per hour until they reach the next construction zone. I'm from a state with a minimum speed limit on the interstate, so seeing any slow-moving vehicle was a bit of a novelty. But seeing this? I'd never even seen an old-timey bicycle like that, let alone 2 of them with a couple of random chuckle fucks riding them on the side of the interstate like that's a good idea. I still do not understand. I was also alone in my car and had to convince myself this was not a fever dream, but I saw them in my rear view mirror, too. Silent zebra. I was walking to a tram stop after a day of collage classes to head home, when all of a sudden I heard this loud bang. I looked over just in time to see a young woman get hit by a car while running to catch the tram. She was hit pretty hard and ended up face down on the road, yet as the driver gets out to ask if she's okay, she suddenly jumps up and continues running to catch the tram like nothing had happened. Thankfully she wasn't on a main road, just a pedestrian crossing off to the side, but WTF, she just got hit by a car and she's more concerned about catching her tram. If I wasn't in total shock I would have stopped her and called an ambulance, but she got on the tram before I could even register what had happened. NISM 003. A few items on the long list of what the fuck. Stories about my youth. Parents split when I was 12. Long story short, they fought a lot and my mother was fed up. I didn't know any of the other details. One day she just left. I stayed with my father for the next 5.5 years. During that time I had noticed a lot of weird shit going on with him. For one, I'd come home from school and he'd be pounding some woman in our house somewhere. I'd just hear noises and leave. He stopped spending time with me and just hid in the garage or left for days. He obsessed over some woman who threatened to call the police on him. Then he started skimping on the groceries, so I had to buy all my own stuff, 15 or so years old, and I luckily had a job to pay for it. He lost his license due to various legal reasons and, when I was about 17, I had to cart his ass around in a car I paid for. Oh, but he refused to help me repair it. He would call during school and demand I come to pick him up. I'd explain where I was, he'd say oh, okay and hang up. Then he'd call back within an hour demanding to be picked up again. Shit continued like this until I was 18. The worst one day I'm at work, in a mechanic's garage, and I get a call from my neighbor. There was a sheriff deputy at my house posting a sign on the door. I rushed home and saw a notice to vacate the premises in 24 hours. I called the sheriff's department, and they said he had not paid his mortgage or taxes for 5 years. Because I was a minor, they had to wait until I was 18 to kick us out. Called my dad, no answer. Got a hold of his friend, turns out he admitted himself to the mental health clinic. Don't feel sorry for him, I'm convinced he did this to avoid his family coming down on him for losing the house. After all, his own parents had plenty of money to help us, they did help me from time to time. I get my family together, both sides, and, as we are packing up his stuff, I find $40,000 in cash shoved under his mattress. I'm convinced he was planning to run off. My mother mentioned that part of the reason she left is because he would hoard everything, especially money. She was the breadwinner, by a large margin, but he would steal it and hide it. He also tried to control her too. Needless to say, my father and I don't talk. I tried to talk to him, but he's convinced I was in the wrong, not him. Same goes for my mother. She wronged him. I could write a book on all the crap he did. I have other stories too involving other family members. Infamous. Chibi. A customer came to my workplace the other day. Looked like a pretty regular old guy. He told me that he had problems with his phone and that he dropped it and it didn't work anymore. The only problem is that I work at a pharmacy, lol. I tried telling him that this is a pharmacy and we can't help with that. He told me that he had come there the other day and that doctors had helped him fix his phone. I told him again that he was probably mistaken. He said that it was probably another pharmacy, but he knew he was in the right building. The pharmacy is in a shopping center. I tried telling him that this was the only pharmacy in the building and again that he was probably mistaken. The guy left and came back in about 15 minutes. He started talking to me again and I just let my coworker deal with him this time. My coworker went to get a map and literally drew him a route where he could get to the phone stores that we had at the shopping center. Our guess is that he thought the workers at the phone store were doctors because they also wore white. It was strange. It's over for this time. I want to thank all the people who liked this video. Put a blue thumb, share and subscribe to this channel, you're amazing. See you in a next video and most of all, have a good day.